Alright, Chapter 2, Precise Drafting in Autocad in 2018. What are your drafting properties? How to draw lines, circle arcs with a precise method, drawing polylines, precise method, how to convert lines, arc, polylines, vice versa, how to object snap with the object track, drafting properties. Well, your draft with the two main concerns within your mind, the accuracy of your drawing, how fast you can finish it, pre-grade with the finish of their drawings, draft without weakening with the drawing expert for the to put accuracy ahead of the fast production. Accuracy is important for the context of the life cycle of the drawing. If your drawing is accurate, other people will modify what the future will be able to do with the machine without a hassle. On the other hand, their lives will be miserable if you finish your drawing fast, but none of the objects are accurate. Within this chapter, you will learn how to use the four most important drafting commands: line command with the draw line, segments arcs to draw with the circular arcs, circle command control circles, poly command to draw lines and arcs jointly. While we are discussing the four draft commands, we'll improve the accuracy tool, which will help you speed up the drafting process of drawing lines. Using the line command, the command will enable to draw straight lines. Each line segment is presented with a single object. For the issue of the command, go to the Home tab, locate Draw panel, then select Line button. You will see the following AutoCAD prompts. Specify the first point with the next point with the next point with the next point. Close or undo. First prompt with the specify with the coordinates with your first point with keeping specify with the points when you are done. Do one of the following. If you want to stop without with closing the shape, simply press Enter or Escape. That will do the job just as well, but don't have to make it a habit. Escape generally means abort. If you want to close the shape at the finish of the command, go with the C with the keyboard, right click with the select with the close option. Right. If you made any mistakes, you can undo the last point by typing U on the keyboard and right clicking and selecting the undo option. This was the right click menu looks like. Enter, cancel, reset, reset, input, close, undo, snap, overrides, pan, zoom, steering wheels, quick calculate. 2-3. What is dynamic input into the AutoCAD? The dynamic input multiple functions show all the prompt with the command window with the graphical errors, show with the length of the angle of the lines before drafting, which will specify them accurately. In order to turn off the dynamic input, turn on and off dynamic input, click the following button on the status bar. Show the dynamic input with the plus sign with a little measuring tape to it. Example showing the properties with the default with the command with the U with the command, and AutoCAD will help you show that all the commands starting with the same letter as in the following example. The move, and then show the all the M letter. Type the letter M, and accordingly to the AutoCAD give you all the commands starting with this letter with the dynamic input that is one of the applicable to crosshairs as well in the following. Let's assume that you start with the command U either way with the one press for the enter for the following prompt will appear. Type X and Y coordinates, U for the tab, give you the move of the two fields. Example, specify the length of the angles. On the specifying the starting point of the AutoCAD, U for the dynamic input to show the length of the angle of the line using a rubber band mode. Angle measured the counterclockwise starting with each of the only for 180 degrees of the like for the angle system in the AutoCAD, which will be for a whole 360 degrees. Type the length of the line with U with the tab input with the angle will give you 1 degree increments 1 to the draw, and you're done with the enter and press enter for the specify with the first line, continuing with doing the same with the other function segments. Practice drawing line inputs, exact angles, and orthopolar tracking. When using the dynamic input, angle with incremented by 1 degree, but still with the use of the can, depending on the specified angle with the precisely AutoCAD with the ortho function will force the line with the right angle with the orthograph goal using the following angles 0, 90, 180, 270. In order to turn off the ortho, use the following button with the status bar. However, what if you want to use the angles such for 30, 45, and 60 with the etc. Ortho will not help in this case with the region of AutoCAD with another function called polar tracking, which will show with the graphic area with the rate starting with the current point, heading towards the angle with the 30, 45, and etc. for the base from the setting with the user for the specify with the angles of single ortho and polar tracking contradict for each other when you switch one. On the other will be turned off automatically. In order to turn on and off polar tracking, use the following button on the status bar. Show with the round circle with the cursor, specified angle with the click with the small triangle with the right triangle with the Q with the different angle dimensions. You can show with the desired angle with the tracking setting with the change sum of the default setting with the polar tracking using the following dialog box. Drafting setting within polar tracking, polar angle increments, and additional angles. Polar angle measure absolute relative to the last segment of the object tracking, symbol tracking, orthogonal, U with the polar angle sediments, incremental vertical angles is an angle to be used along with the U with the multiple lines. Select one from the list of the type that you're on with additional angle with the U with the 30 incremental angle with the 45 with the will be among with its angle with the polar track will allow you to use. Hence, you will need to specify with additional angle. However, you will be aware that there's not use of multiples. Polar angle measurement. When the polar tracking you have the ability to specify the angles is absolute based on the zero that is east of the U of the line segment of the B or and zero angle of the check of the following illustration. Measured using angle 0 angle measured using line segment. When you control the angle, ortho, and polar tracking, you the type of the distance of the desire, of the pressure, of the draw, of the accurate distance, of the method of the current, with the direct distance entry. Practice. Precise drafting, even the object snap, the O snap, with the most important accuracy tool, with the Autocad, with the 2D and 3D as well, with the way is specifying the points for the object precisely, even the Autocad database store with the drawing file, some of the object snaps are, and point to catch the end point of the line or arc, midpoint to catch the midpoint of the line or arc, intersection to catch the intersection of the two objects for the aim of the two objects for the perpendicular catch for the perpendicular part. Point over the object nearest to catch the point on an object the nearest to your click point. It will discuss the object snap. It will discuss the more drawing object with geographical presentation, each for the O snaps. Endpoint, midpoint, intersection, perpendicular, nearest. After running O snap of the active, the O snap of the drawing, click of the object snap of the button with the status bar with the snap cursor for the 2D reference object for the snap. Click the small triangle to the right of the button. You'll see the following menu. Endpoint, midpoint, center, node, quadrant, intersection, extension, insertion, perpendicular, tangent, nearest, apparent, intersection, parallel, object, snap settings. You can select for the desired object snap, O snap the one by one. You can make it a more convenient chain for the object snap settings. The option with the following dialog box will appear. In the drafting server, you can go to object snap with the F3 with the and object snap tracking F11. The object snap modes, endpoint, minute, and center, geometric style with the quadrant, intersection, extension, insertion, perpendicular, tangent, nearest, apparent, intersection, and parallel. Your two buttons are selected with the select all with the clear all. The recommended you for the clear all first, and then select the desired O stamp with the when done with the OK with the O stamp with the override with the O stamp with the object for the buttons on with the server with the O stamp with the working, others are not. With the temporary switch all of them off with the use the single O stamp. Then after setting everything back to normal, this is what we call O snap override. There are two ways to activate an override. You for the keyboard type of the first three letters O desired in the O stamp. You give the type of the keyboard to hold the shift key and then right click it. You'll see with the following pop-up menu, and ensure that once again with the O snap menu. Drawing circles using circle band. The command of drawing circle with different methods based on everything available to add with the coordinates and with the two-dimensional possible method. If you with the nose with the coordinate with the points with the diameter with the circle, there is another two specified with the drawing object like the lines and arcs and other circles will be used with the tangent time to be created with the circle. There are two more methods with the following 6 methods to draw a circle with the Autocad. Show the input, certain center, radius, input, center, and diameter. Input 2 points in diameter, input through any 3 points, tangent, radius, tangent. To issue the command of the home tab, and locate the drawing panel, select the arrow near the circle, but see what the available method. Circle with the center, radius, center, 3 point, tangent, radius, tangent. Drawing circle or arc using our command. The command with the draw with the arc for the part of the circle to make the lives E with the Autocad, U with the 8 P for the information relay with the circle arc. Starting with the point of the arc, any point with the second point with the parameter of the arc, the end pointing of the arc, the direction of the arc with the tangent, passive, the starting point with the user should input with the angle with the tangent. Distance between the starting point of the end point of the call of length of the core of the center of the point of the arc, the radius, and the angle of the start center end of the include with the angle, and show the center angle of the radius, length, the end, and second direction of the start. If you provide 3 of these 8 pieces of the information, the Autocad will be able to draw an arc, but not with any 3. The combination information needed can be found with the home tab of the draw pane with the clicking of the arrow need with the arc for the button to see all the available methods. 3-point start point, starting center, angle, starting center, angle, starting single length, starting end, angle, starting end dimension, starting end radius, center, start, center, angle, starting angle, center, start, length, continue. As you can see, the start point with the always required information normally with the user should be the counterclockwise, specifying with the points. If on the other hand you want to use clockwise, simply hold the control key that will change object snap to relay with the circle of the arcs. Some object snaps relay with the circle of the arcs, or the center of the decad with the center of the arc, with the circle, the quadrant over the arc, with the circle, with the tangent, with the decad, with the tangent, with the arc, or the circle with the graphical representation. Each one of these O snaps. Center, quadrant, tangent. Using snap object for the O snap. The O snap is alone with the not enough for the specified with the desired points, especially if we need the complex one with the solve of the problem with the pass with the drawing with the dummy object to help specify with the complex points. In this case, you want to specify the center of the circle with the circle of the rectangle. You with the draw of the line with the midpoints with the two vertical line with the chain with the horizontal lines for the introduction of the O snap, object snap tracking and or track. The Autocad 2000, the drawing with the dummy objects instrument, the diminished O-track with the depends of the active O-snap mode with the which means that if you want to use the midpoint O-track, require that you switch to the midpoint on the first. To activate the O-track, go to the success bar, click the O-object snap with the button. Procedure is very simple. The O snap with the go to the desired point with the stand with the with a couple of the second with the don't click with the move with the right left with the always depending on the next point with the usually the infinite line extending with the both directions. This line will be horizontal vertical depending on your movement. If you want the single point to specify the desired movement, then move with the knee with the direction and type of the desired distance with the press enter. If you need 2 points for the go to the next point, stay a couple seconds and then make the movement into the desired direction. Another infinite line will appear going to the intersection point with the two infinite lines. There will be your point. Shows 2.0 tracks, single point O track. Polar command will be ahead of the major contribution as well, but let it go back from the same dialog box. Object snap tracking track orthogonal only tracking using all polar angle settings using the object snap tracking. Some of these are two choices for the traffic or graph. Orthogonal object with the default option tracking using polar tracking setting. Each may be the current polar angle, the incremental additional angle specified with the points for the O track. Go to deactivate O-track point, say it at the same point again for a couple of seconds and it will be deactivated. For skipping the practices, just to move quickly through these and practices. 210 drawing lines and arcs with the poly command. Polyline command will do all of any of the following draw lines and arc segment of the drawing. Single object with the same command rather than drawing a segment of the lines and arc like an arc lines and arc command. Drawing lines are with starting and ending widths. So use the command with a home tab to draw a panel select with a polyline. Following prompt will appear specify the start point current line width of the 1.0 specifying the next point arc half width. Length, undo, and width. Autodesk will specify for the first point when you do the AutoCAD will report the current line width. You will, if you like to continue to specify with the points, you with the same with the learn with the line. If not, change with the width of the first step with the type of the letter W. Right click with the width of the option will bring up with the specify with the width, ending with. Starting with the percentage specify the end with the next time with the same file with the AutoCAD will report with these values so they can issue with the polyline command. The process for the half width is the same, but instead of specifying with the full width, either specifying the half width, the undo close for the option identical to the ones of the line command. Length will specify with the length of the line using angle of the last segment. The arc will draw with an arc attached with the line segment. You will see with the following prompt. Specify endpoint with the arc of the angle, center of the clove with the direction, half width, line radius, second point, or undo width. The arc will be attached to legs over the line with the first object within the polyline with either methods of the first one, but the arc is already known, so we need the two more p for the AutoCAD makes an assumption which you have the right with the reject. AutoCAD will assume that the angle over the last line segment was considered the direction of the tangent of the arc. If accept the assumption, you specify with the end point. If not, choose the following specified second point of the information angle over the arc, the center point of the arc, any other direction over the arc, the radius of the arc. Second point, which could be any part of the parameter of the arc. The base of the information select with the second point of the AutoCAD will ask you supply a third piece of information, but all the means not out of the 8 we discussed before. Normally, usually if you think counterclockwise, specifying points. On the other hand, if you were clockwise, simply hold the control key. It will change, converting polylines to arc lines to arc and vice versa. The essential technique of the will convert any polyline to lines and arcs, and converting lines to arc to polylines. Converting polylines to arc. Explode command, explode with the polyline and lines to arc. This is the command with the go home modify panel. Click the explode panel. AutoCAD will show the following param selected objects of the desired polylines into the what done show shape of the new shape of the discover the chain with the lines or arc. Joining lines or arcs to form a polyline. We'll discuss here in the option called the join command. It's an edit polyline. To issue the command, go to Home tab, locate the Modify panel, but then select Edit Polyline. You'll see the following polyline prop. Select polyline or multiple object select is not a polyline. Do you want to turn it into one? Yes. Enter for the option close joint with end. Edit vertex fit spline with a decurve line. Type the reverse object. And so that's your edit polyline. You just want to tell that you do it. Yes. I'm starting first by selecting on the lines of the arcs you want to convert to the Autocad will respond with the telling you select the opposite polyline, give you the option of the converting the specified line to arc to polyline. If you accept the options, will appear with the one over the options join, then select the join option, select for the rest of the lines arc, and to end with the press, enter twice, select for the object for the finishing. You will find that they were converted to polylines. Using O snap with the specify with the points accurately. Snap the grid with the breath to the help specify with the points accurately on the XY plane with the default mouse if it's not accurate depending on the specified points. We need to give the control of the movement, which is the sole function of snap. Snap control of the move of the jump of the XY plane exact. If the grid itself if it's not accurate tool, but it will complement the snap function. It will show the horizontal vertical lines replicating the drawing sheet in order to turn the snap off, on and off the following button on the snap bar. That's also the F9 key in order to grid off the following button on the status bar, and then most likely switching both on will not help, but you will need to modify the settings with your own requirement. Small triangle to the right of the snap button. You will the following with the power grid power snap grid snap setting. Select snap setting. The option drafting snap setting dialog box will turn up. Input snap spacing X and Y and snap spacing Y default over that are equal. Switch over the checkbox to make the unequal. Do not switch for the grid X and Y if you want the grid to follow. Snap the set with the grid spacing to 0 if the grids are there. Major minor lines setting major line frequency. So set if you want to see the grid and dots if you were before AutoCAD 2011 and wherever the 2D space for the block editor and sheet layout. So specify the tab of the snap of the grid, snap of the polar line, snap of the UV function keys with the turn on and off, the both snap of the grid with the F9 snap on and F7 the grid on snap using polar snap. While using the tab command with the mouse wheel with the incremental distance, specify the exact distance, only horizontal vertical direction going with the diagonal snap will not help you. The 12 of the problem in AutoCAD provide with the concept of the polar snap will specify the exact increments with the angles. Specify with the polar tracking dialog box to activate the polar snapping. AutoCAD will switch with the off on the normal snap with the grid. So call the grid snap with the D with the snap button. Click with the triangle F at the right of the bottom. Select with the snap setting with the option will bring up the following dialog box. And it says polar spacing for the polar distance. Polar snap button to specify the polar distance is shown with above the illustration. And then there's practice for snapping and small projects. Chapter review answers. Chapter 3, Modify Commands Part 1.